Hey guys, welcome back to my channel if you're new. My name is Carla and welcome to Knitting Diaries episode 3. So in this episode, I want to review everything that I knit in 2024. Now disclaimer, I would say I knit a very normal, if not abnormally low amount of items. 2024 was the first year that I actually picked up knitting needles with intention. I've knit scarves here and there before, but this was the first year that I actually knit sweaters and other things. So technically it's not been a full year of me knitting. So I fully expect that the 2025 recap is going to be a little bit more chunky. However, I did knit 5 sweaters this year, a hat, and half of a pair of mittens. I have one mitten to show you guys. The other one is about to be completed. And I do have a cardigan currently on my needles, and I have a bit of a list planned for this year. I really want to complete the cardigan that I have on my needles right now before I plan what my next projects are going to be. It was just my birthday, so I did get some money for some yarn, which is super exciting. I'm so excited to just go and surf the internet. I know what colors I'm gravitating towards. I think once you guys see everything that I've made, you'll also know the colors that I gravitate towards. And I did get a pair of the Gu needles for my birthday as well. So I'm suited and booted, ready to go. So without further ado, let's jump into everything I knit in 2024. First item I don't have with me, I gave it to my sister. It was the Novice Sweater Chunky by Petite Knit. That sweater. With that being the first sweater that I've knit, let's just say a lot of things went wrong. The needle set that I was using is from Amazon and it has served me. It served me for almost a year and I'm going to keep them just because it has a bunch of needle sizes that the Gu set doesn't have. However, those needles love to snag yarn. And the Novice Sweater Chunky, I use Drops Air and Drops Kid Silk, and Drops Air is a very blown yarn. It snagged so much, and I also wasn't knitting in a continental style. That sweater took forever. It was a great thing to like dip my toes in. Ultimately, I did knit it a bit too long for my body, so I gave that to my sister and she enjoyed it greatly until it was put in the washing machine. This is a bit out of order. This was actually the first item that I knit, was this beanie. It's just a 2x2 rib beanie and I used a Genmu yarn and I think the color was Reef. But I live in Los Angeles and it has not been cold enough to wear a hat, so I actually haven't worn this yet. But here's what it looks like on. My hair is pretty voluminous right now. You get the gist. This is the next object that I finished. This is the Monday sweater from Petite Knit. I've not worn this sweater as much as I thought I would. Number one, I don't really like the color, and when I blocked this, I didn't block it as big as I usually like sweaters, so I just don't gravitate towards it, but it's a really good staple. If I do knit this pattern again, which I feel like I will, I'll probably knit it in a size large so I don't have to stretch it as much. I do like an oversized sweater. I'd say I'm a true medium, but sometimes the medium patterns are a little snug, and then in combination with my knitting tension, which is pretty tight, everything ends up being way smaller than it's actually intended to be. But I use Drops Kid Silk and the Drops Baby Merino. I learned how to knit continental about halfway through, so from here down it took forever. Also, the 2 yarn colors that I chose were not really what I was intending for it, so that's why it's coming off like super pale on the camera. That's because the mohair is pale but the base yarn is not. It's a hot pink, so very strange. It looks very weird. It looks weird in different lightings. Like in the sun it might pull more hot pink, in the shade it looks like this, which is very strange because it doesn't look like this in person. I feel like if I were to knit this again, I would probably use Santa's Garn Sunday and Tin Silk mohair. I think this is a really good basic sweater if you need that, and I might do this in just a basic neutral color. And my next finished object is the Daydreamer cardigan by Kutova Kika. This one is a favorite. I knit this in Cascades 220 Superwash Merino, I believe, as well as Drops Kid Silk. I saw this baby pale yellow color from Cezanne in a pretty similar construction cardigan, and I had to do it. Now, did I save that much money by knitting this in wool and mohair? No, but at least I know this is 100% natural fibers, and at least I didn't spend over $200, which I think is what the Cezanne one runs for. I mainly wear this open, and when I did knit this, I did forget to put a buttonhole, and I didn't have enough buttons to put one all the way at the top, so that kind of irritates me. That's probably something I will fix in the future. I'll probably end up having to replace all of the buttons since I do only have 6, and I don't really love the color of these buttons. They were the color choice in my head. It looked like it was gonna work a bit better, but in real life it looks a little comical and childish. So I might go for like a brown tortoise button or like a clear button. And if I do that, I will see if I can add an afterthought buttonhole to the top. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. This was a really fun pattern to knit. I enjoyed it so much. The half fisherman's rib is very engaging, and prior to this, I had only knit in just pure stockinette. So my brain was very stimulated, and that's what I love about knitting. I recently started knitting a pair of colorwork mittens, and my brain is like, this is the most exciting thing ever. But she was very exciting. I knitted this in a size medium. The yarn that Kutova Kika recommended was a bit more of a blown yarn, like Drops Melody or Drops Air. I didn't really like the look. I wanted this to be a bit more structured, so I did choose Cascades, which she mentioned as well. However, Cascade and my tension for some reason was super tight, so if I put in a picture of what this looked like while I was knitting it, it looked like a miniature child's cardigan. So when I blocked this, I did a lot of stretching. I had to block this 2 times. The first time, I think I stretched it a bit, but I took it out before it was fully dry because that's something I would do usually because I'm super impatient. But unfortunately, I did have to reblock it a second time, and that time I feel like I stretched it out a bit more. I didn't want to stretch it out too much. And also it just looked really strange without a button at the top, I must say. But I have worn her out and about. She's very warm, and somehow I have like built a skin tolerance to mohair. It doesn't itch anymore. I'll definitely be making another one of this, maybe not in Cascade. And if I do use Cascade, I would knit this in a large. Once again, I love an oversized sweater. This is slightly oversized. It's just not as oversized as I was looking for. Next thing I knit in 2024 was probably the best and my definite favorite thing that I've ever made. I don't know if I'll top this just because the color is in the pattern. Excellent. Here we have sweater number 15 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I think since I finished this, which was mid-December, I have not taken this off. I've probably worn this maybe 2 or 3 times a week. If the weather permits, it's on my body. I loved the way that this turned out. I used Santa's Garn Sunday and Santa's Garn Tin Silk Mohair, both in the color Pink Lilac. The most stunning combination. The whole time that I was knitting this, it was just a joy because it was so interesting. This was the first cabled piece and only cabled piece that I've made so far, and I definitely want to continue. As I said, I love engaging projects, and this was very engaging, just having to do a twist every 10 rounds, and then the color was just very pleasing to my eye. The details on this were so beautiful. As you can see, the mohair just gives it a lovely little fluff. And then I love the twisted rib neckline as well as the twisted rib on the sleeves. I did extend this maybe an inch, and there are no decreases on the sleeve, so it's pretty loose. I definitely don't keep this hung. I just hung it for the video. It's folded because it is a pretty like heavy sweater, and I feel like hanging it would distort it. But it is so stunning, super warm. I've gotten compliments on it, and then when I tell people that I make it, they're shocked. But this is definitely a pattern that I would make again. At this point, I would make every pattern that I've made again. It's just, I definitely had the most fun making this one. And I would highly recommend that if you are just dabbling into cables for the first time, this is super intuitive and beginner friendly. Last sweater, but not least, this was the bane of my existence. I started this in May of 2024 and I finished it in December. This was the 3rd sweater that I ever cast on, which was a mistake. I don't know why I did that. And in hindsight, I probably should have not done what I did. So that sweater is the Petite Knit Stockholm V-neck in 2 strands of mohair. Why did I do that? Great question. Maybe I like torture. But this took me 6 months to finish. Obviously, I wasn't knitting it for 6 months. I would knit some, put it down, cast on a new sweater, complete a new sweater. In fact, while making this, I think I completed 2 sweaters before I decided that I needed to go back and finish this in time for 2024. So I literally finished this maybe the last day of December, and it was not enjoyable. Now, with my new needles, this would probably have been a breeze to knit, but mohair, especially 2 strands, got stuck in the joint of my needles every single time. And then because I had to do magic loop for the sleeves, not an enjoyable experience at all. I love the construction of this, and I love the way that it looks on me. I love the 2 strands of mohair, super stunning. Will I knit this again in 2 strands of mohair? I don't know. I might do a Sunday mohair situation similar to what I used in the cabled sweater. I think this would be really cute in just like a thicker weight. I love the size. I knitted a medium, and mohair, when you block it, doesn't stretch that much, so I would say this is very much true to size. And the way that I wear this is just with a white t-shirt. My mohair tolerance is up, up, so I can tolerate this on my bare arms. And it is a little scratchy because I did use Drops Kid Silk. Drops Kid Silk, for me, it's like a hit or a miss. Sometimes it's super scratchy and sometimes it's not. It's a pretty thin sweater, but mohair is pretty warm. I like a weight like this more for California than some of my other choices. I definitely can get way more wear out of this, and it's just super lovely and soft. However, because I have completely fallen in love with twisted rib, I feel like if I made this again, I would do twisted rib for the collar as well as the sleeve. Ooh. But this was a labor of love that I think was worth it in a sense. Maybe if I dedicate myself to making one of these a year, I would have a few Stockholm v-necks after 5 years. But it is a little bit boring just because it's pure stockinette, but it's a sweater that I think is such a great basic, and sometimes I feel like I need to suck it up for a great basic. I love the sweater number 15. However, obviously it's pink and it's cabled, so it's a bit of a standout piece, and sometimes you just need something like kind of plain, and this is definitely that. That's it for all of the garments that I made. Like I said, I didn't really have a full year of knitting in 2024, so hopefully 2025 recap will be a lot better. But I do have an honorable mention, which is the Alma mitten. I only have one. I have the other one on my needles right now. And I saw Handmade by Florence show these in her Christmas gift guide video, I believe. She added a Latvian braid, so obviously I had to do the same thing. And this, it took me a little bit to get the hang of. Also, this was my first color work pattern, so a little bit of a learning curve. I just love the way that this came out. Obviously, I live in Los Angeles. When am I gonna wear this? I don't quite know, but I do want to go on vacation to a few cold places. And I did vendor markets all of December, and I was in Santa Monica as well, and at night it got cold, so I feel like I would have had a good use of this. But this was just like a fun in-between project because the sweater that I have on my needles right now is just plain stockinette, and I just needed something a little bit more stimulating, especially after finishing that Stockholm v-neck. But this was super fun. I love the details. This is unblocked, so it's a bit janky, and I just used Cascade 220 Superwash Merino, I believe. All of my labels come off of my yarn, so I'm torn if it's Superwash Merino or just Superwash, but it is Cascade 220. I wanted to use Pure Ghent, but my local yarn shop didn't have like any real colorways of Pure Ghent, but I do like the look of that a lot more than this. This one is super structured. I think once I block it, it's gonna soften up a bit, but I'll put it on my hand for you guys. Like I said, I haven't blocked it, so it's super tight. Oh, ta-da! Super cute. I think when I block it, I'm gonna stretch the cuff out, but the other mitten is on the Chaogu needles that I got, and what a joy to knit with. They already look 10 times better than this. Because the cables have no memory, it really allows me to do magic loop perfectly, and that's what I was using for this. I wasn't using double pointed needles. It's not for me. But the cables on that needle set are amazing. So as you can see, it does need a little bit of some evening, and because the needle set that I was using from Amazon, the cables are super stiff, I really couldn't tighten these sides very well, and I can definitely tell a difference on the other pair. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and seeing everything that I knit in 2024. I know it wasn't super long, and I do plan on keeping the knitting diaries going. We moved apartments, and then I was doing vendor markets for my business, which involved a lot of sewing, so I didn't really have too much time to knit, but things are back to normal, and I have a whole knitting plan for 2025, which I would love to go over in another video. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.